Hello, my beautiful friends and loyal listeners. It's always a pleasure to spend my time with you on the airwaves. Thank you for listening and interacting with me on social media. That truly makes it all worthwhile. Please make sure to follow me. I'm all over Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at ZenSams with an X. You can also text the word collaboration or feature me directly to my handheld at 917 575 2321. Again, that number's 917 575 2321. We have a great show lined up for you today. As usual, a mix of celebrities, impressive citizens, politicians, and a ton of fun. Today's guests are quite impressive and full of insight. We also have Dr. Jeffrey Galvin. He's a medical director and founder of Vitality Medical Wellness Institute. He is both certified in emergency and obesity medicine. He has served as a major in the United States Air Force and specializes in trauma and emergency care. He has over 25 years experience in working in some of the busiest ER rooms departments all over the country, and he's basically cared for over 50,000 patients. That's quite impressive. Now, with the Delta variant on the rise, I thought that it was very fitting to research what I could do for myself to lessen the effects of COVID-19. And I found out that, in fact, certain vitamins and supplements, if taken consistently, can help reduce the severity and even prevent one to falling gravely ill. So Dr. Galvin is here to break it all down for us and guide us back into health. We're going to be talking minerals, supplements, and all things COVID-19. But first, a big shout out to Aikido Pharma and CEO Anthony Hayes. They have just recently joined the sponsor lineup, debuting today with our segment called My Healthy Minutes. Now, Aikido Pharma is an early stage drug development company committed to developing new solutions to life-threatening diseases. They publicly trade on the NASDAQ under ticker symbol AIKI. Then we have matchmaker and life coach Carmeila Ray joining My Digital World segment with Gary Fowler, who is an artificial intelligence and crypto expert, along with Shahal Khan, who is CEO and founder of Tempest. Believe it or not, Shahal is going to be piping in from Washington, D.C., from inside the Masonic Temple. And I'm warning you now, reception is going to be spotty due to those concrete interiors and architecture the building lends itself to. But please do watch. We're going to be live on Sunday and Monday morning when we upload our vodcast, and you could catch a glimpse of the interior as Shahal will be hanging on to dear Wi-Fi while we are chit-chatting about the celebrity crypto craze. As Hollywood collides with this crypto hysteria, we ask ourselves, what could possibly go wrong? Well, I'm going to pick their brain and find out. But first, some thoughts on Afghanistan, and will the Taliban surge in Afghanistan hurt Biden politically, or are Americans just done with the war? Now, recent surveys show that people in the US are primarily concerned about the deadly COVID-19 pandemic and the economy. And roughly half the country polls have shown that fellow Americans don't really care too much about Afghanistan news. Now, while numerous Republicans in Congress are already criticizing Biden over this withdrawal, it remains unclear just how much of the American public is really concerned about the fate of Afghanistan, or even paying attention to news of this Taliban's steady overtaking of the government, that the US has spent more than $2 trillion of our money over the last 2 decades. And that's quite concerning. So there's no doubt that Biden's decision is rooted in deep personal conviction, okay? And a calculation that Americans no longer see a rationale for continuing the forever war to stabilize Afghanistan's fledgling democracy is currently headline news. Nevertheless, guys, ending the 2-decade US campaign has basically allowed the Taliban to reassert its power at a pace far more swift than Joe Biden ever predicted. And last month, he said that himself. Now, could this really put the president in political peril? When he took office, the U.S. military presence had been scaled back to around 3,500 troops. Biden announced in April that he would withdraw the remaining U.S. forces by September 11th, the anniversary of the September 11th, 2001 terrorist attacks, which Al-Qaeda planned from Afghanistan. Now, to many esteemed generals' early warnings, that a rapid fire withdrawal would allow the Taliban to gain ground, Biden said the time had come to reorient America's defense priorities towards more urgent threats. What? More urgent threats than a terrorist group? Okay, well, Biden's contention that a deal made with a group like the Taliban by a previous administration had to be respected. Oh gosh, that's worse than disingenuous. The reality of Afghanistan will play out just as Democrats are straining in the weeks ahead to advance Biden's domestic agenda, which, guys, is a $1 trillion bipartisan infrastructure bill and a 3.5 trillion budget that would amount to a dramatic expansion of the social safety net. And beyond Washington, an ugly withdrawal from Afghanistan could undermine Biden's attempt to convince US allies that America is back as a global leader. Now, that's not good for you, Biden, not good at all. But up next, stay tuned. No more politics, no heavy talk. We have fashionista, fellow mom, and philanthropist Bronwyn Newport, ambassador to orphanmyth.org, as am I, and we're going to be talking about dressing for success, the common myth about foster care and orphanages, and how you can get involved. Stay tuned. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Ocean Resort Casino in Atlantic City, Tempest, Aikido Pharma, Vice Cucina in Midtown and Soho, Revere Securities, Helen Yarmack International, and Romulus Entertainment. Tune in every Saturday night at 9 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, or download the iHeart app. Text the word collaborations to 917-575-2321. Follow Zen on social media at ZenSams. That's Zen with an X.
Welcome back, beautiful people. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I am your host, Zen Sams. Now, I want to talk about an organization that I am a proud ambassador to called Orphan Myth. And to help you understand, I'm going to give you some key facts and myths about orphans. Now, kids in orphanages have no parent or family. Well, actually, that is not true. Children are often separated from their families because of poverty, and an estimated 80% of children in orphanages have at least one living parent. And with the right support, many could be reunited with their families. Myth number 2, there are no orphans in the US. Well, actually, there are over 420,000 children in the United States foster system, and the majority of them need a loving foster family while they wait to return to their biological families. We have 100,000 children that will never be able to return home and are waiting to be adopted. And a big shout out to the incredible ladies that run Orphan Myth. Lindsay and your team, you rock. Now, coming up in a few to help me address this is fellow Orphan Myth ambassador, the beautiful Bronwyn Newport Bradley. She is the Newport behind Pray and Newporter. Bronwyn thrives on sourcing and wearing the most unique, and I will tell you, unique and vivacious clothing, accessories, and shoes. All you have to check out her Instagram. She is a fashion mentor of sorts with a huge philanthropic heart and prides herself, and as she should, on charity work, giving it back and paying it forward. And her driving thought is quite priceless. It's that when you look like the best version of yourself, you empower yourself to go out and be the best version of yourself. Welcome to the show, beautiful lady. I love that quote.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I'm so excited to chat with you, chat fashion, chat all kinds of things about Orphan Myth and everything. So thank you.
Well, thank you for coming on the show. Now, for those of you who are listening and haven't had the pleasure of watching us just yet, she's stunning. She's beautiful. She's a millennial mom. She's full of fashion advice. And she is here to give us some tips and some trends for the fall fashion and to also talk about her work with Orphan Myth. Now, what inspired you to basically want to inspire others in the most incredible way with fashion and give back?
Sure. So I think I knew at a really young age that my particular choices, whether they were humor or especially fashion, were different than other people's. And that meant that there were eyeballs on me. And I definitely went through all kinds of growing up and maturing, but I've realized now that if I have those eyeballs, if you're going to stare at my shoes, then I may as well use that platform or that moment to chat with you also about the things that are important to me. Um, as a millennial mom, like you said, I have a 15-year-old daughter. So I really resonate with charities that work with kids. I was a single mom for a long time. I have stepkids now and a blended family, and I've just seen all kinds of iterations of parenting and family and how that works. And I actually got into working with vulnerable children specifically by accident. Honestly, as the best things usually do happen that way. I was working with another charitable initiative and met a woman, and she said, I'd love to go to lunch with you and chat with you about something. And I wasn't totally sure if that was like an invite to a cult or a diet guide or some kind of like MLM sales pitch or what it was going to be. But she was darling, and I'd met her through a reputable charitable organization. So we went to lunch, and she said, I also work for this organization called America's Kids Belong. And I would love for you to come and see kind of what it's about. And I have to be honest, at that point, I was woefully ignorant about the foster care situation and statistics here in the US. I really had no idea how many children were in foster care. I didn't understand the goal of reunification for most foster care kids, or what the great need for foster care kids to be fostered and also adopted was. So, I kind of set out to learn about it. I think the best thing you can find out is that you don't know something, because then that opens up this opportunity to, really learn about it and figure it out. Education and information is absolutely key in my world. So I worked really hard on learning all about it. I had lots of lunches with her and other people that worked with the organization. And I will tell you, I have done a lot of research, like I said, and I've worked with them for quite a while, about 2.5 years now. Um, and that is not necessary for anybody listening or watching. All you need to do is go and meet some of these kids, or think about your own kids or yourself as a child, a teenager growing up, all of the things that you needed and wanted. And I think as soon as you do that and you realize the humanity behind, kids not having a stable home or a loving family or that support system, it is impossible to not want to get involved.
It's totally heartbreaking, and back to Orphan Myth, I know they just recently completed the 100% participation campaign, and it was supported by 45 of their founding nonprofit partner organizations and 30 celebrity ambassadors, and they focused on the collective commitment to one big idea, that it's gonna take 100% of us to get 100% of children into a safe and loving family, and through this campaign, Orphan Myth aimed to increase their public awareness, mobilize their supporters, and gather resources both globally and in the United States. And I think they did an excellent job. It has brought ambassadors like yourself, like myself, to the platform and to the organization, like Kwaku Mandela, Miss Universe Canada, Nova Stevens. So, from your perspective, this whole movement, especially with Orphan Myth and helping children, what do I was surprised to see some of these staggering statistics as well, but orphanages, in my opinion, set up these children to fail ultimately. And when you talk about fashion and tying it back to your self esteem and being able to walk into a room proudly because you're dressing for success, uh,
Absolutely.
imagine how these children are feeling about not even having clothing, or they go with literally a garbage bags from home to really kind of, that's all they have. They have no identity. They have nothing. Talk to us about this whole notion about dressing for success, but how you truly, as a mom, and you could see this because you have a 15-year-old, right? Clothing is everything. How do you
It
think
is everything.
this is affecting these children in group homes? Talk to us about dressing for success and especially how that affects children.
Absolutely. So, like I said, I kind of got into charity work Well, I guess I can say I got into charity work because maybe I had some bad karma in the past. All of us have to learn and grow. We all make these mistakes, and um, I look back and wish I'd done all kinds of things differently. I've been much more evolved and intelligent and emotionally mature, and so I'm hopeful that one day I will have reached enough charitable endeavors that I will have like kind of balanced out that what I've put out into the world. But also because, like I said, obviously people do look at the way that I dress, as weird as that might be to acknowledge it. But I also had a whole process of growth with what I wear. I have feelings just like any other human. And I've gone through a whole life cycle of trying to figure out, is it appropriate to dress the way that I want to? Is it socially appropriate? Is it appropriate in a business setting? Is it okay to be different than someone else? Wearing crazy, unique, weird, maximalist clothing brings me a lot of personality and is a true, authentic display of kind of my expressions and feelings and who I am. But I also have gotten a lot of pushback or feedback, or people make assumptions about me for because of those things. So once I met with some of these foster kids, I realized a similar link, right? In that, as odd as it might be to just kind of say this outright, the way that we dress and present ourselves and wear and live does affect our confidence, and it does affect our ability to be our best selves and show up in the spaces that we're in, the way that we want to, totally authentically. So I have definitely found a link there when I work with these foster kids, or I talk to them, I mentor some of them, I spend time with some of them. And that is really important to me, that I am always reminding them to have confidence, to develop a healthy self esteem. And a lot of that comes from passions and hobbies, like which mine is fashion. But also that it's okay to say, I feel my best when I am, showered and my teeth are taken care of and I have clothes that fit and a new backpack. And honestly, those are things that foster kids worry about. When you move from home to home, you don't always have your own shampoo, or you don't always have your own space in a bathroom, or going back to school when everyone else has new backpacks or new clothes and you might not. Those things do start to be a problem for kids that are in the foster care system.
Well, I think that you're right on point when it comes to dressing for success, and these kids do look up to you, and I think that's great. Now, tell us a little bit about why Orphan Myth is so important to you versus other organizations, other than inspiring these children and dressing for success. Is there a bigger picture with you and Orphan Myth?
Sure. What I really was drawn to when I started to get into Orphan Myth was that it is this amazing group, like you said, of 45 other charity partners that are all working together to dispel these myths about orphans, as you kind of so aptly said earlier, and explained so thoroughly. And I love that that means that there is room for every one of your listeners, everybody who watches this, and even everyone who doesn't, to get involved. There are so many organizations working together, and I love a collaborative effort. I love that we are all kind of saying this is a problem. There are kids who need our support. There are kids that need homes. There are kids that need all kinds of things. And there is a way for each person to get involved. Maybe you're not prepared right this second to be a foster parent or to have kids in your home or to be an adoptive parent, but you can, like I said, donate to make sure these kids have backpacks to go back to school. You can donate your time to be a mentor. You can help chat with other friends. A lot of this, like you and I said, is dispelling these myths that there are not enough families to have these foster and adoptive needs fulfilled, or that all orphans are in an orphanage somewhere, or that they're not in the US. Those are all things that just talking to friends, being open, being vocal can do a huge service
Huge,
for.
huge. Yes, you're right. So for those of you that are listening, that are going to be watching our podcast, that are going to be watching our segment on social media, because Bronwyn and I will be definitely sharing the segment. You can also go directly to orphanmyth.org, and you can donate and you can check out their website. There's a lot going on. And then if you want to check out the beautiful Bronwyn, go to her website, Pret and Newporter, PretAneuporter, Pret and Newporter. Definitely check her out. She has so many cool shots over there with all these awesome fabrics and textures. I spent probably 15 to 20 minutes just in awe looking at your photos yesterday, Bronwyn. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It was a pleasure having you.
Absolutely. Thank you. And thank you for everything you do to chat about orphan myth and to raise awareness for them.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. Guys, you're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WR, the voice of New York. I am your host, Zen Sams. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Ocean Resort Casino in Atlantic City, Tempest, Aikido Pharma, Vice Cucina in Midtown and Soho, Revere Securities, Helen Yarmack International, and Romulus Entertainment. Tune in every Saturday night at 9 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, or download the iHeart app. Text the word collaborations to 917-575-2321. Follow Zen on social media at ZenSams. That's Zen with an X.
Welcome back, beautiful people. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Now, we'll be chatting minerals, supplements, and COVID-19 with Dr. Jeffrey Galvin of Vitality Medical Institute. But first, a big shout out to Aikido Pharma and CEO Anthony Hayes. They have just recently joined the sponsor lineup. They're going to be debuting with this segment called My Healthy Minutes. Now, Aikido Pharma is an early stage drug development company dedicated to developing new solutions for life-threatening diseases. Aikido Pharma publicly trades on the NASDAQ under ticker symbol AIKI. Now, as the world grapples with the COVID-19 pandemic and the lack of clinically effective therapies, attention is shifting to different ways of strengthening the immune system. We know that COVID-19 infection considerably impacts our immune system through multiple inflammatory responses. Now, a balanced diet that includes vitamins A, B, C, D, E, and K, and micronutrients such as sodium, zinc, potassium, chloride, calcium, and phosphorus may help maintain general well-being and strengthen the immune system and logically decrease infections. A deficiency of vitamins and minerals in the plasma leads to subpar performance of the immune system, leading to a poor immune state. And as my mom research points to recent evidence showing that nutritional supplementation does help reduce viral load and hospitalization rates. Furthermore, mineral supplementation has been shown to positively impact immunity in viral infections and prevent and reduce cardiovascular and cerebrovascular diseases, which are features of severe COVID-19. Now, which supplements can we use? Well, Dr. Jeffrey Galvin is joining us right now to break it all down. He's an internal medicine specialist with more than 31 years of experience. He is the founder of Vitality Medical Institute, which is an executive medical boutique specializing in optimizing health and performance. They help reverse chronic disease, optimize hormonal health, improve body composition, and weight loss. Welcome to the show, great doctor.
Thank you very much, Zen. Little correction, I'm actually board certified in emergency medicine. And so besides running my clinic, I still work in the emergency department. I've been working throughout COVID. So I have a little bit of a personal, background with COVID and have seen all the havoc that it's caused. And we're here in North Carolina and we're dealing with a big surge right now. It's really not really made it up to New York yet, but it's probably coming. And so we are always talking to our patients about how do we minimize risk, right? And so we want to avoid getting COVID and we want to do the things that are going to mitigate things, take mitigation strategies, avoid going around people who are sick, distancing, all the things that we've been kind of pushing. But are there some other things that you can potentially do in addition to that that might boost your immune system? Now, our practice is very much data-driven and evidence-driven. So we don't just make, recommendations willy-nilly. We try to look at the science. And since this started, we've been doing podcasts and webcasts since the beginning. And back in April of 2020, I put together a supplement guide that has been updated from time to time as more research has come in. And I think we'll talk about some of those supplements that you can add to your current regimen that potentially can reduce your risk of getting COVID, or if you do get it, maybe get a much more minor case of it than you might get otherwise.
Got it. So which specifically vitamins do you recommend to help our bodies fight COVID-19? And again, back to your commentary, I mean, COVID studies show that, long-term mineral deficiency may lead to an increase in some of these levels, ACE2 levels in lower respiratory tract cells, which in turn could increase the severity of COVID-19. Now, which minerals would you say we should stick to, and vitamins, if you can sum it up to the general public walking into the regular GNC?
So, I think the first one that we start with everybody is vitamin D, because Americans are notoriously vitamin D deficient. Now, normally we would produce vitamin D from the sunshine, but if you live in the South, and if it's really warm in the North, we aren't outside like we used to be. We are inside, and so vitamin D levels are low. And also the national sort of guidelines for vitamin D are, in my opinion, very very much too low. I think 30 is considered normal. We really want people between the level of 70 and 90, and your doctor can check that. But vitamin D is really important. It's actually a hormone. It's not only a vitamin. And we know that it has a profound effect on immunity. It has a lot of other really great benefits in terms of cardiovascular health, vascular health, brain health. But we think it can reduce cytokine storm. There's plenty of studies that have been done in hospitalized COVID patients that show reduced admissions to the ICU utilizing vitamin D. And for a lot of people who are in the hospital with COVID, vitamin D is one of the mainstays of our current therapies. It reduces that cytokine storm. And I'm sure your listeners have probably heard of that cytokine storm, which is that sort of overwhelming inflammatory response, which oftentimes leads to people getting very ill or dying of COVID. And we think that vitamin D plays a role in moderating that cytokine storm. And so generally we tell people about 5,000 units a day, probably 3 to 5. You might, double check with your doctor depending on what your levels are. Vitamin D3 is the best available. And it's easy, it's inexpensive, it's very cheap insurance, and it has a lot of other benefits that you get in addition. I would recommend taking it. Anyway, if you're outside a lot, maybe in the summertime you don't need as much, but in the wintertime, definitely you need to be getting it.
And what is the age range for people to be taking this supplement? Is it teens over 16 and up? What age range do you recommend specifically for these supplements, or is it overall?
I mean, I think that, for our purposes and the purpose of our patients, I'm mainly talking about adults 18 and over, although there are child doses of vitamin D that I would certainly recommend. I would probably ask people to ask their pediatrician about specific dosaging for their kids, because it really is weight-based and it depends on their age and how big they are. And I don't want to, give anybody the wrong information.
Yeah, understood. And what about minerals? I mean, is there some minerals that are accessible to us over the counter that can help, again, prevent some of the more, harsher effects of COVID, so to speak?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the ones that has been well studied and I think has got decent data to support is zinc. And zinc is a charged molecule. It's got a +2 charge. And the problem with zinc is that it doesn't get into the cell very easily because of that charge. If it's in the cell, it hampers viral replication. So if you're infected with a virus, not only COVID, but many other viruses, then what it will do is it will interfere with the ability for the virus to replicate. If it can't replicate as well, it's not going to make you as sick. But the problem is that it doesn't easily go into the cell. You really need something to transport that zinc into the cell. And in that case, we need basically what's called an ionophore, which basically, grabs that zinc and then that gets pulled into the cell along with the molecule because it sort of negates the charge. The one that is easiest to access and also, again, has a lot of other benefits is quercetin. And quercetin is a flavonoid. It's found in fruits and vegetables. And it basically has some unique properties. It can improve mental and physical performance, but also it acts as this ionophore. So if you take it along with zinc, you can get the zinc to get into the cells, and it's inside the cell, not floating around in your plasma, that it provides its benefit. Now, you can get into trouble with zinc if you take too much, and I think the recommendation is no more than 40 milligrams daily. And if you're going to be taking it for more than a couple months, you really need to talk to your doctor. But that's a general recommendation. Quercetin, we typically say about 250 milligrams a day. Now, in our protocol that we send out, and I'm glad to send it to your listeners if they would like it, we also have protocols for what to take if you actually have an active case of COVID as well. And then the dosages and the frequencies change a little bit.
Got it. So, it's all that fine balance, and of course consult physicians, and never go out there and just start taking supplements and vitamins without checking labels and whatnot. But we do know that, of course, this is proven fact, and there's a lot of data and statistical evidence that points to how beneficial minerals and supplements are. Now, we also know in the United States the highly transmissible Delta variant is driving an uptick in these COVID cases, and you're saying primarily among the unvaccinated, according to our conversation a few days ago.
Right.
But the good news, right, is that as the weeks pass, more reports have been coming out about the effectiveness of the vaccines that are in use and the potential of those still in development. So how do they differ, right? That was my question to you on our prep call. But it's important to keep up, but it's a daunting task, Dr. Galvin. And I'm going to say that given the flood of information and, of course, misinformation that's basically coming at us in so many directions, people are kind of confused about these main three vaccines. So we know that we have vaccines from Pfizer, BioNTech, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson that are currently being administered. If I'm correct, those three vaccines are authorized by the FDA, right?
In the U.S., yes.
In the U.S., correct. Now, we know that the Pfizer is recommended for anyone 12 and older, and that the vaccine is being studied in children ages 5 to 11 currently. Moderna is also another one. But you told me something quite interesting about the Johnson & Johnson. Unlike the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, you said it was a carrier or a virus vector vaccine. What does this mean?
The Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines are mRNA vaccines. And what they do is they basically carry this little instruction to build something. And that instruction is to build the spike protein of the virus. And when we have that, we have these antibodies against that spike protein floating around in our circulation. And if we get exposed, the virus seeds our mucous membrane. So none of these vaccines prevent you from getting sick, but when people get sick, it's from when the virus crosses into the bloodstream. And that's where you get clotting problems and deep lung tissue problems. And having taken care of hundreds and hundreds of COVID patients now and really dealing with another huge crush of COVID patients, what are we seeing? Overwhelmingly, they're unimmunized. The few breakthrough cases we've seen with the vaccine have been very mild. They don't need to be admitted. But the Johnson & Johnson is an adenovirus vaccine, which is more of a traditional vaccine where they've programmed a virus to infect the cells, and that virus tells the cells to start making this spike protein. Probably not, looks a little bit hard to tell, but it doesn't look to be quite as effective, especially against Delta, as Moderna and Pfizer. And so my recommendation for most people is Moderna and Pfizer, if you have.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I think it's because the average person hears about the Johnson & Johnson as a single dose and that they don't have to go back, and they figure, hey, this is easier. But to your point, you have to look under the hood. It's not everything that glitters is gold, even in science. And we're at about a minute and a half coming to an end of this awesome segment. You are so knowledgeable, and I can just pick your brain for another 30 minutes, but we're definitely going to have you back. And if people can go to your website, obviously it's called VitalityMWI.com, Vitality Medical Wellness Institute. You're also on Instagram at VitalityMWI. And you also have a YouTube channel. Quickly tell us about that.
Well, from the very beginning, I got a lot of crazy questions about COVID. And one morning early on, I came out of a shift and had 1,000 texts. And I posted a little video, it got many, many views. And so I've been posting about COVID pretty regularly ever since. And we've gotten into a little controversy lately because I did a rebuttal of Dr. Stock's comments to the school board in Indiana and an analysis of the papers, and that's gotten us, a lot of haters and a lot of support.
There's going to be lots of haters.
So.
Well, thank you so much for coming on. This was awesome. We're definitely going to have you back. You definitely have to check out Dr. Jeffrey Galvin of Vitality Medical Wellness. I am your host, Zen Sams. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Ocean Resort Casino in Atlantic City, Tempest, Aikido Pharma, Vice Cucina in Midtown at Soho, Revere Securities, Helen Yarmack International, and Romulus Entertainment. Tune in every Saturday night at 9 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, or download the iHeart app. Text the word collaborations to 917-575-2321 Follow Zen on social media @ZenSams. That's Zen with an X.
Welcome back, beautiful people. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. I am your host, Zen Sams. Now, coming up in a few, we have Carmeila Ray, matchmaker and a life coach. She's going to be joining us. Gary Fowler, artificial intelligence crypto expert, and Shahal Khan, CEO and founder of Tempest Network, on My Digital World segment to discuss the celebrity crypto craze. Now, as Hollywood collides with crypto hysteria, what could possibly go wrong, one would ask? Well, celebrities like Spike Lee are pitching crypto-related brands, and does it really do the industry any favor? 3 decades ago, director Spike Lee made Nike's Air Jordan ads a cultural phenomenon. The premise was simple. Michael Jordan, arguably the best basketball player ever, used these shoes and put his name on them. So if they were good enough for him, they were definitely good enough for you. And now recently, Spike appeared in another ad. The Oscar-winning director campaigning for CoinCloud, a company that makes kiosks for buying and selling cryptocurrency. And according to Spike, old money is not going to pick us up. It pushes us down. The digital rebellion is here. Now, he isn't the first celebrity to jump on the cryptocurrency bandwagon. Influencers like Kim Kardashian and Jake Paul have done paid ads on social media. Actors like Neil Patrick Harris and Alec Baldwin have appeared in ads for CoinFlip and eToro. And over the last few years, Steven Seagal, Floyd Mayweather Jr., and DJ Khaled were charged with promoting crypto without disclosing that they were paid to do so. The celebrity hype machine, particularly around a still very infant industry, if you ask me, that's not even well understood by mainstream customers, harkens back to the dot-com bubble when celebrities like Anna Kournikova and Shaquille O'Neal shilled for websites that soon went, well, belly up. Joining me now on our segment is Shahal Khan, CEO and founder of Tempest Network, a Burkan World Project, Gary Fowler, award-winning serial entrepreneur, recently named one of 10 top global executives, and he's also authored over 140 articles. And of course, the lovely and incredible Carmeila Ray, host of Mom vs. Matchmaker, an award-winning reality TV show with 4 seasons distributed over 85 countries. And as a millionaire matchmaker and an advisor to some of the world's most successful entrepreneurs, she believes that your network equals your net worth. And today, she is here to help us make sense of this crypto craze and if it's a right match for you. Welcome to the show, my beautiful friends.
Thank you.
Great to be here. Thank you.
All right. Well, Carmeila, let's start off with you. And, you know, we're going to take it back to a woman by the name of Cleve Messidor, who leads the National Policy Network of Women of Color in Blockchain, cautions big name spokespeople against jumping at the hype. She says, unfortunately, some Black and brown celebrities, athletes, and prominent figures are making endorsements driven by FOMO, fear of missing out. And she claims they don't have a clear understanding of how vast, how dynamic, and how complex this industry is. What do you say to that, Carmeila?
You know, it's this, as with blockchain and crypto, a lot of people do not have enough knowledge about it, myself included. I started getting interested in crypto and really self-educating about a year ago. And so when you've got celebrities and who are, you know, endorsing products and who are influencing decisions, it's problematic because you don't know if they're actually giving great financial advice. I mean, these are not experts. They're being paid by companies and they're profiting from their suggestions and their influence. So I think it's really important. I'm not sure if it's related particularly just to celebrities of color or people of color, as you mentioned in this particular quote, but I do think it's important for people before they invest and before they choose to do something to really do their research and get real advice, digital currency advice, wherever you get that, from the appropriate parties and not from a celebrity. As much as I love celebrities, unless those celebrities as well are very knowledgeable and they have the knowledge and ability to be able to advise people.
Yeah, I agree. Now, Shahal, are you there? Can you hear us? All right, then I'll put the question to Gary. Gary, oh, you can hear me. Okay.
Yeah, I can, sorry to come on like sort of impromptu walking around, but
It's okay.
I just
Always
happen
happy
to
to
be
have you
very,
on.
very
Always
quick.
happy to have you on. We have about 9.5 seconds, 9 minutes and 35 seconds left in this segment. So,
Go
Shahal,
ahead, shoot.
this question is for you. Crypto's complexity isn't easily conveyed in a commercial, and hence Spike Lee bellowing, "Do your own research" for CoinCloud. That kind of oversimplification led to a backlash against Lee's spot. Some viewers questioned his claim that crypto is a financially liberating option for people of color. CoinCloud says more than 60% of its workforce is Black, Indigenous, and people of color. And according to a 2021 study, the average cryptocurrency owner is a 38-year-old white male whose yearly salary is $111,000. What do you say to this, Shahal?
Yeah, so I think, crypto so far has been a realm for extremely technical people, and then people that are already used to using sophisticated methods of investing. And it hasn't been able at the moment to be sort of democratized in its meaning, simplification of use, that the general, population in the world would like to have as in terms of understanding it, using it on various platforms. And I know that there is this horrible FOMO feeling with everybody else because they're hearing in the media about people making millions and millions of dollars, and how do you get into these pre-ICOs or these coin offerings, and most people just don't know, and they make the mistake of going onto these exchanges, just sort of trying to go to buying meme coins and really making a lot of mistakes and losing money, just because this small sort of really technical group of people are always the one leading the pack. And we need to change that. We need to simplify crypto. We need to make it as simple as people that understand how to buy and sell stocks or use their digital bank accounts to save money or to make investments, through their brokerages these days. Like Robinhood oversimplified, trading, for example. So we need to get crypto to that degree of not only KYC and due diligence, so people understand what they're buying, and it has to be a safe mechanism, but also how they're able to enter into this. So it's not just a game for people that are programmers or traders.
Yes, you're right. And you know what? That's something that you make a lot of sense when you point it back to that. And Gary, I'd like to get your opinion on the cryptocurrency itself being regulated. So to make things even more complex, crypto itself isn't fully regulated yet. It's still up for debate whether something is a security or not a security, and the final interpretation by regulators will dictate how it could be marketed and advertised and what the rules are. This poses a lot of reputational risks for celebrities that are part of these campaigns. What do you say to that?
Well, whenever you have these emergent, exciting technologies come out, people jump on the bandwagon. I mean, think about it. Years ago, we were selling pet rocks and people made them really exciting. And there was a craze. So, I mean, but at the same time, our world's fundamentally changing. The digital transformation's upon us, then. We are going to change our lives. This COVID has really, if you look at it, McKinsey said before COVID, 93% of the companies worldwide were going to go through the digital transformation. In order to be able to contract business and do business, and here we are stepping it up again with the situation, we need to have tools like cryptocurrency so we can do business together. It's not going to be like it was before. The central banks of the world, of course, are concerned because they can't control the currency. Part of it is concern by people that have reserves. What's going to happen to the value of my currency? But what I say is that it's going to be evenly distributed around the world because intellectual capacity is evenly distributed and opportunities aren't. Cryptocurrencies gives us more of a level playing field. And you're right about it. There's a lot of BS out there today with some of the cryptocurrencies that are coming out. But look at the number of developers that are behind the currencies. Shahal will tell you the same thing. Look at the developers. If they got the right kind of developers like currencies like Ethereum have, And with the Tempest Network, there's an incredible opportunity to go for it. But you have to look at it. You know,
Without a doubt, without a doubt. I'm just going to, because we have about 4.5 minutes left, and I want to throw this question to Carmeila, and it's about trust. And as a matchmaker, you are always advocating for people to find their perfect match. And this is not something that's far-fetched anymore. It's become a reality to a lot of households, this cryptocurrency. Now, do you think, Carmeila, that the trust achieved through the use of these celebrities in crypto is a healthy thing or not? Because this isn't Michael Jordan selling basketball sneakers. This is a lot. This is much more complicated than that. So what do you say to the trust factor?
I think when it at the basis of it, it's up to the individual person's integrity. You have celebrities in the music industry, in the sports industry, in television and radio and all of that. So it boils down to the character of that person. And if you're going to get information, it boils down to the trust, their network, their past history of making decisions and endorsements and going from there. But I really think it's important that people need to educate, not just on the celebrity, and that the celebrity knows they have the responsibility that anything they say likely is going to be, taken action on because they have that influence. So to be ethical and responsible.
Great. I couldn't echo that sentiment more. That's great mom type of advice. Now, Shahal, can you still hear me? Oh, you're there. Okay, so this is for you. I was talking about the crypto-related brand, Shahal, that are thinking about using these celebrities to nab some quick hit trust from potential customers. In my opinion, would do better to look at how investment apps look at Wealthsimple, right? They built a large, loyal user base over the last few years. The brand did invest in traditional advertising, but its primary focus was less about hype. It was less about hype and more about educating young investors on financial health and literacy. And when it did dip into the celeb spokesperson verse, it wasn't a flashy movie star, but very specific documentation and tools that were educating the public. I know you have a similar vision for Tempest Network. We have about 2.5 minutes left. Give me the lowdown on how you plan to use the Tempest Network and your innovative, skills to basically turn this into something that is a way of life for the future.
Well, Zen, within the Tempest Network, what we have is a platform that around 500 million people are already engaged through our partnership with a very large gaming platform. And this is where we're initially going to launch Tempest. So a lot, and this gaming platform has in it some of the top teams in the world in esports and gamification. That's really going to be our, let's say, our currency issuance platform from day one. So rather than following the model of utilizing celebrities to get a lot of traction in the media in order to get people to know about the coin and understand the coin from day one is going to be built in to a very large platform. It's going to have functionalities built into that platform where people are going to be able to engage and earn and then use the tokens that are given to them on the platform in order to transact on the platform, buy goods and services, and then seamlessly transfer their earnings into fiat cash. It could be in dollars, or they could even convert it into other cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever else they want to do. So for us, the education part is going to be built in seamlessly into the gaming platforms that they're already used to using. And it's going to be as easy as using your banking wallet or your banking app that you have on your phone today. We've made it that simple. So we're not really going to have to educate people in terms of real technology and how to mine crypto or any of that complicated stuff. They're simply going to be doing the things that they're used to doing. Playing games is going to be the first. Later on, it'll progress to hopefully learning, education, and also working. This could be a way that companies now start to pay people for working online. So this is all seamlessly going to be built into this initially gaming platform, and then other platforms that we're going to associate ourselves with in the future. So really, we won't have to use celebrities to, sort of make us popular. It's already going to be built in.
You know what? We've lost time in this segment, but I wanted to thank Carmeila Ray. For those of you that don't know her, her name is Carmeila Ray. You can check her out at carmeliaray.com. This is My Digital World segment right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. You're listening to Gary Fowler, Shahal Khan, Carmeila Ray, brought to you by Tempest Network, a Burkhan World project. I'm your host, Zen Sams, right here on 710 WR, the voice of New York. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Ocean Resort Casino in Atlantic City, Tempest, Aikido Pharma, Vice Cucina in Midtown and Soho, Revere Securities, Helen Yarmack International, and Romulus Entertainment. Tune in every Saturday night at 9 p.m. on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, or download the iHeart app. Text the word collaborations to 917-575-2321. Follow Zen on social media at Zen Sams. That's Zen with an X.
Well, we're almost at the end of our date, my friends. But before I sign off, I just wanted to address some pertinent information that did come across my desk that's relevant coming this September 13th. Now, a group of restaurants and businesses have filed a lawsuit against Mayor de Blasio in opposition to this mandate requiring proof of vaccinations at city eateries, gyms, movie theaters, and basically everywhere. Now, the businesses are arguing that the mandate violates their constitutional rights and unfairly targets certain establishments, but not others, like churches, grocery stores, schools, offices, and medical facilities. Now, the suit says that the mandate is arbitrary and capricious for a slew of reasons, including that the highly contagious COVID-19 Delta variant can actually spread amongst both vaccinated and unvaccinated people. Now, I do believe that the decision to get vaccinated should ultimately lie within the individual and their doctor who knows that person's complete medical history than a politician. Now, the mandate also threatens people's livelihoods, making it impossible for anyone who chooses not to be vaccinated for whatever reason to work in the designated industries. Now, the suit is seeking for a court to block the vaccine mandate by issuing a preliminary injunction. Now, as part of the vaccination requirement called the Key to NYC, the city is going to begin issuing fines, and this is important, to indoor establishments that don't enforce the vaccine mandate beginning on September 13th. First offense fines will be $1,000, and second offense fines will be a whopping 2,000 buckaroos. This is so not cool. And although I'm all for getting the vaccination if you choose, that's your choice and no one can be forced into anything. Here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York. Well, that's a wrap, my friends. Offenses at $2,000. Okay. Now, the vaccine mandate begins on September 13, with first offenses being at $1,000 and second offenses coming in at 2,000 buckaroos. This is not cool. And although I'm all for getting the vaccination, that should be your individual choice and no one should be forced into anything. Well, that's a wrap, my friends. Remember to join me right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, every Saturday night from 9 to 10 p.m. or go to 710wr.iheart.com/A Moment of Zen to watch fully uploaded episodes on our vodcast system. That's right, vodcast. In Leighton terms, we are a TV podcast, and you could watch me as of Sunday or Monday morning. Remember to tune back in next Saturday night at 9 p.m. Thank you for listening to A Moment of Zen. It's been an absolute pleasure being your host. Thanks again to all of our sponsors. Till next week, and remember, happiness is the only thing that multiplies when you share it.